I need to get this off my chest, and maybe find some advice or at least some understanding ears. Here's what happened. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband, Mike, for 6 years. We live in a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. It's nothing fancy, but it's ours, or so I thought. I work as a project manager at a local tech company, and Mike is a freelance graphic designer, working mostly from home. Our life was pretty routine, with its ups and downs, but nothing could have prepared me for what unfolded recently. Mike's parents, especially his mother, have always been a significant presence in our lives. His mom, Susan, is the epitome of a Southern matriarch, always impeccably dressed, with a sharp tongue and opinions on everything. His dad, Robert, is more laid back, but usually goes along with whatever Susan decides. From the beginning, Susan made it clear that she had certain expectations for her son's life, and, by extension, mine. At first, it was little things. Susan would drop by unannounced, often with helpful suggestions about our home decor or my cooking. She had a knack for making me feel inadequate, always couching her critiques in sweet tones. "Oh honey, you're using canned tomatoes for your sauce? I always make mine from scratch. It's just so much healthier," she'd say with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mike would brush off my concerns, saying, "That's just how mom is. She means well." I tried to be understanding, but it felt like death by 1,000 cuts. The unannounced visits became more frequent, and her comments more pointed. She'd rearrange our furniture, claiming it would improve the flow of the house, or she'd bring over new curtains because the ones I chose were a bit drab. Things escalated when Susan started making comments about our plans for children. Mike and I had decided to wait a few more years before starting a family, wanting to be more financially stable. Susan, however, was not pleased. "You aren't getting any younger, dear," she'd say, her eyes lingering on me a bit too long. "Mike needs an heir." I felt like I was being evaluated and found lacking. Despite all this, I tried to maintain a cordial relationship with my in-laws. Family is important to Mike, and I didn't want to be the cause of any rifts, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to bite my tongue. Then came the day that shattered any illusions I had about our family dynamics. It was a Wednesday, and I had left for work early to prepare for a big presentation. Mike was still asleep when I kissed him goodbye. The day was hectic, and I barely had time to check my phone. When I finally did, during a quick coffee break, I noticed several missed calls from Mike. Concerned, I stepped outside to return his call. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked when he picked up. There was a pause before he responded. Not exactly. Mom and Dad are here, and they've changed the locks on the house." I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. "What do you mean, they've changed the locks on our house?" "They think it would be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while," he said quietly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "And what do you think, Mike?" He sighed. "Maybe it's for the best. Things have been tense, and this might give everyone some space." I was stunned into silence. Tears welled up, but I refused to let them fall. "I see," I managed to say before hanging up. I left work immediately, my mind racing. By the time I reached our neighborhood, I had formulated a plan. I parked a few houses down and called a locksmith, explaining that I had been locked out of my home and needed assistance. While waiting, I contacted the local police department's non-emergency line, informing them of a domestic dispute regarding property access. When the locksmith and a police officer arrived, we approached the house together. I rang the doorbell, and Susan answered, her expression a mix of surprise and smugness. "Oh dear, we didn't expect you back so soon," she said sweetly. The officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, this young lady is the legal owner of this residence. I'm going to have to ask you to leave immediately." Susan's face turned a deep shade of red. "But the officer emphasized. "Now." As they gathered their belongings, Susan hissed, "You're making a mistake." I stood firm. "The only mistake was trusting you." Mike tried to speak to me, but I held up a hand. "I think it's best if you leave with them." That night, as I sat alone in my reclaimed home, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. The man I had loved had chosen his parents over our marriage. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that after they left, I could breathe, rebuild, and move on. But what happened next was the part one never saw coming. The very next morning, I woke up to a banging on the door. I thought maybe it was Mike coming back to talk. But when I opened it, it wasn't just him. It was him, Susan, Robert, and, get this, a lawyer. Susan stood there, arms crossed, with that smug, tight-lipped smile that made my skin crawl. Mike wouldn't even look at me. The lawyer, some guy in a pressed suit with slick-back hair, introduced himself politely. "I'm here to discuss a property matter," he said, pulling out a thick folder. I stared at them, still in my pajamas. "It's my house," I said flatly. He nodded, flipping the folder open. "Your name's on the deed." "Yes. But the funds for the down payment came from your in-laws' joint account. We're here to discuss a potential equity claim." I could not believe what I was hearing. "They gave us that money," I said, now shaking with anger. "As a wedding gift." "They called it a gift. There's no loan document, no agreement, nothing." Susan stepped forward, her voice syrupy sweet. "It's not about money, dear. It's about fairness. We put a lot into this home, and we just want what's right." My hands were clenched into fists. What's right would be leaving me the hell alone. The lawyer, clearly sensing the tension, raised his hands. "No one's here to cause trouble. We're just opening a discussion." I slammed the door in their faces. But they didn't stop. A few days later, I got served papers. They were actually trying to file a civil claim for partial ownership of my house, not just petty harassment. A real lawsuit. I hired a lawyer. Thankfully, I had every transaction, every message, every passive-aggressive gift email Susan had sent me over the years. My lawyer, bless her, was a pit bull. She looked at the papers and just shook her head. "They don't have a case," she said. "This is intimidation." And it worked, at least for a bit. I was jumpy, paranoid. I started checking my locks twice, looking over my shoulder when I pulled into the driveway. They didn't win legally, but mentally, they were still in my head. Then it got worse. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to movement outside. I peeked through the blinds and saw headlights at the end of the driveway. Someone was just sitting in a car with the engine running. I grabbed my phone and zoomed in with the camera. It was Robert, just sitting there, lights off, staring at the house. I didn't call the police right away. I took a video. Then I called Mike. He picked up after a few rings, groggy. "What?" he mumbled. "Your father is sitting outside my house like a creep. What the hell do you people want?" There was silence on the other end. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I didn't tell them to do that. I'm not even at home right now. I'm staying at a friend's." "You lost control of them," I said. "You let them do this." "I didn't know," he said quietly. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't about Mike anymore. It wasn't even about the house. It was about control. They couldn't stand the fact that I had said no. That I had taken back something they thought they owned. And now they were trying to make me crack. So I cracked, but not in the way they expected. I started documenting everything, every text, every voicemail, every car that parked outside. I installed cameras, changed the security system, and even got a dog. Big, loud, and loyal. I wasn't afraid anymore. But I also wasn't done. "You want crazy?" I started playing their game. After the creepy 2 a.m. driveway incident and getting my security system installed, I tried to keep life as normal as possible. I went to work. I walked the dog. I lived like someone who wasn't being hunted by her in-laws' obsession with control. But behind the scenes, I was planning something. Something petty, yes, but also strategic. I set up a hidden camera in the front hallway. Not the security cams that beep when someone walks up. This one was silent, tucked inside a lamp, pointed right at the front door and entryway. Then I called Susan. I told her I was ready to talk things over. "Oh, that's wonderful to hear," she chirped. "We knew you'd come around." She came the next afternoon, alone. Mike wasn't with her. Probably didn't know she was coming. She walked in like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the hardwood, that same smug expression plastered on her face. I offered her tea. She declined. Of course. I sat across from her at the kitchen island and asked, "So Susan, tell me what this is really about. You want money? Power? Mike back under your roof?" She gave a tight smile. "It's not about any of that. It's about stability. Mike was never himself with you. He stopped calling us. Stopped visiting. You isolated him. I stared at her. You locked me out of my house. She shrugged, completely unfazed. Sometimes we have to take action when someone refuses to see reason. Oh, I was so glad the camera was rolling. Then came the moment I hadn't expected. She pulled a flash drive from her purse and slid it across the counter. "What's this?" I asked. "Mike's will," she said. I blinked. "He's not dead." "I know," she said, sipping from her water bottle. "But if anything were to happen, I thought you should know what's in it." I didn't touch the flash drive. She leaned in, whispering. "He changed it last month." "I don't think he told you." "Everything goes to me and Robert now. Not you." My stomach twisted, but I kept my face calm. "Thanks for letting me know." She smiled, patted my hand, and left. I immediately called my lawyer and told her everything, including the flash drive. I didn't plug it in. I wasn't about to trust a device handed to me by someone who saw poisoning my marriage as a bonding activity. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, my dog Rocky started acting weird. Not sick, just nervous. Pacing, growling near the back door at night. Then I noticed something behind the bushes, like a glint of glass. When I went out the next morning, I found a small camera tucked between the fence boards, pointed at my bedroom window. I took pictures. I called the cops. They took a report, but couldn't do much. So I did something that maybe I shouldn't have done. I invited Mike over. I told him I needed to return some of his things. He looked tired when he showed up, like life with Susan wasn't going as planned. I handed him a box of clothes and said, "You really need to talk to your mom." He looked at me, confused. "What's going on now?" I pulled up my phone, opened the hidden cam footage, and played the recording of Susan's visit. The flash drive, the creepy comments, all of it. His face turned pale. She did this," he whispered. "She's been playing you," I said. "She made you choose between me and her. And now she's trying to erase me completely." That was when Mike admitted something I didn't see coming. "I never changed the will," he said quietly. "I didn't even know she had a copy." I stared at him. "Then what was that flash drive?" He swallowed hard. "I think it's fake. Or worse, she forged it." I felt a cold wave wash over me. Now it wasn't just harassment. It was criminal. I told him, "You need to decide, Mike, right now. Are you with them, or are you going to help me stop this?" He looked down, ashamed. Then he said, "There's something else I need to tell you." Of course there was. He sat down, rubbing his hands together like he was trying to stall for time. Then he said, "They've been planning this for months. The cameras, the lawsuit, even locking you out. It wasn't a reaction. It was the plan. My mom, she wants to sell the house. She wants to move to Florida, and she figured she could force you out, take over the deed, and flip it for profit." I stared at him, horrified. So this wasn't about family, or me, or even you. It was about real estate? He nodded. That was the moment I knew I wasn't just dealing with a toxic mother-in-law. I was dealing with a criminal, manipulative woman who didn't care what she had to destroy to get what she wanted. And I was about to destroy her back. I called my lawyer. I told her everything Mike just confessed. The forged will, the hidden camera, the long-term plan to take over the house and sell it behind my back. She listened, then said, "If we're going to hit back, we're going to need to hit hard and legally." That same week, we filed for a restraining order against Susan and Robert. I submitted video proof of her threats, the surveillance camera near my bedroom window, and the forged flash drive. I also gave them a copy of the footage from our tea conversation. Susan had no idea she'd handed me the rope she was going to hang herself with. But it got better, or worse, depending on how you look at it. When the police got involved and searched their home, thanks to the footage and multiple reports, they found more than I expected. Printed out copies of my work schedule, a list of my routines, and a small locked box with blank legal forms, deed transfer forms, all filled out in my name, but never signed. They were literally trying to erase me on paper. Mike was shocked. He agreed to testify. Said he didn't want any part of this anymore. It should have ended there. But Susan didn't go quietly. She showed up outside my office one day, waiting in her car. I didn't approach her. I called the police. That alone was a violation of the restraining order. She was arrested right there, in front of the building. Her perfect hair, her perfect lipstick, all undone, screaming that I was the manipulator, that I had broken up her family. It was poetic. And still, I wasn't done. At the civil court hearing, my lawyer brought out everything. The forged will, the emails, the fake real estate papers, even Robert's midnight driveway visits. The judge saw it all. Susan lost her case. Not only did they lose all claim to the house, they were ordered to pay my legal fees and damages. It was a small amount compared to what they tried to take from me, but it was public. It was shameful. And that's what mattered. But here's where I messed up. I had gotten so caught up in winning, in proving I was right, that I hadn't stopped to think about what I actually wanted from Mike. After the court mess, Mike tried to make things right. He moved out of his parents' house. Said he was ready to rebuild. Apologized for not standing up to them sooner. But I couldn't forget it. He let them change the locks. He stood there while they told me I didn't belong in my own home. Even if he didn't plan the whole thing, he let it happen for months. So I told him the truth. I'm not staying with someone who made me feel like a guest in my own life. He cried. I cried. Then I told him to leave for good. And he did. I sold the house a few months later. Not because I had to, but because I wanted the final word. That home had been a war zone, a memory I didn't want to sleep in anymore. With the money, I bought a little place up in Asheville. Peaceful, quiet. Nosy in-laws, no cameras, no drama. Just me and Rocky. Sometimes I look back and wonder how the hell I survived it. I don't feel proud of everything I did. I wanted revenge, and I got it. But I also burned a bridge I once thought would be mine for life. But you know what? Peace feels a lot better than being polite. And freedom? That's something I'll never let anyone take from me again.